Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we'll be working on these Leagues of Votann models. I got a combat patrol here, plus some Thunderkin and a bus. In the forever struggle of trying to get ready for 11th, I wanted to try to bang these out. And ever since I first saw the Leagues of Votann, I always thought of just like, this looks just like Deep Rock Galactic in my head. So I wanted to do a kind of Deep Rock Galactic theme here with the bases. Not necessarily the colors, because I didn't really have like a bunch of different yellows, reds, greens, and blues for the different classes. So I thought it'd be ready to just kind of do the bases in a certain theme, and then we'll paint these in something different. Did a few different prints here for this job, nothing crazy. Basically these cool Xenos crystal bases, you can find them here. Also, I downloaded this file because I thought I was going to do an engineer proxy. I ended up not doing that, but it came with the torch STL, so the torches they use in the game to light up the areas, they're little torches here, so I wanted to put these on the bases. And I also needed some mules, which are Molly, which are the, robots that carry the minerals around. So I wanted to print a few of these out for just some thematic. They, you could run them as proxies or something, but I just thought they were really cool. So I wanted to go for like this metallic blue vibe over the whole army. So that's the goal here, the pre-planning. I wanted to have this blue, and with blue, I wanted to do more of a burgundy tone skin, like a normal Caucasian burgundy skin. So I think this contrast will be really nice, and we'll kind of figure out the OSL later. Probably gonna be blue, but we'll see. All right, let's jump into it. First off, with all these models, we're just going to get a coat of primer. Here I wanted to base them in a blue, not just a black. So I mixed the darkness from Army Painter with some black Vallejo Service Primer, and I covered all the models and the bases with this. This dark blue will set up some nice shadows for the next colors coming up. A little different process than I do sometimes here, but I wanted to start with the skin tones because I'll show you what I'm doing after. But basically, I just with a brush painted on Blanchberry, which is a dark burgundy, with dark rose, which is a dark Caucasian skin, giving me a really nice deep skin tone color. I'm going to paint any skin, which is mainly the faces, but also some of the berserkers have, upper parts of their bodies open. Next color here, I wanted to use a little brown rose with barbarian skin, and I wanted to just kind of give a little shot over the front of the face. This will highlight my shadows really nicely and set me up for my wash later, so I don't have to do too many more steps here with the skin, and I can just do highlights at the end. It's a little more prep in the beginning, but it definitely gives you a really nice effect towards the end. You don't have to do as much work for it. Alright, off to the metal here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix some gunmetal gray, which is a kind of steel colored Vallejo metallic paint, which is really nice. I'm going to mix in some turquoise ink from Liquitex, about 2 drops here. And then I also use a Cloudborne blue, which is a speed paint, because I didn't like the brightness. I wanted to bring it down a little bit. Going forward, I end up actually kind of shooting some of the models I did because they were a little too dark. So if you don't have the speed paint and you want this recipe, to be honest, you can leave the speed paint out and just do the turquoise ink and the silver metallic paint, and you'll have a really nice mix. This I'm going to use a brush to paint on because I did all that work with the skin. I don't really want to overshoot or have to worry about that or worry about masking all the heads off. And this gives me a little more control because I'm going to paint some leathers and some cloth after this as well. Now I'm onto the cloth. All my cloth are just going to be my trousers and some of their shirts are the same. I'm going to use a Blanche Berry. And I'm going to do for just a straight burgundy. I think, again, it kind of plays in with the faces and the skin tones I'm going for, but when I highlight it, it'll be different, so it'll stand out and really just complement the blue armor. I really want the blue armor and the faces to be the focal points of these models. After this, after I'm done with the cloth, I'm gonna paint Banshee Brown for all my leathers. Just base coat everything. Be careful with the gloves because some of the gloves are actually metallic hands, like robot arms. So I painted over a few myself, not realizing that. After this step, we're pretty much just going to paint in any other metallics with a lead belcher. I'm just going to base most of the other metallic parts that are like weapon parts or ancillary machinery or mechanical parts on some of these models, some of the runes as well. Just going to give them a lead belcher. It'll blend in nicely but not take away from the main point of this blue armor. Before moving on here, I'm just going to paint some other bits and bobs, you know, some red tubes and wires, but also I'm going to paint their facial hair, which I'm going to use a mix of brown, dark orange, and black for the rest of the models. Next, moving on to the weapons. I wanted to do a kind of white weapon casing, kind of spacey, so I actually ended up going for a pale blue. Pale gray blue, and I'm going to base coat all of the casings, quote unquote casings, because I'm not really being too specific on what's getting this gray blue base coat, but I'm going to just base coat what I want in that. Before I go to my wash stage, I just wanted to give a little bit of highlight to my leather. So I'm just using red leather here, the color from Vallejo, with my dry brush, and I'm just kind of hitting the edges and doing a little scratch work on the leather, just to give it a little bit of pre-wash, because I'm not going to go crazy with the washes. Really quick, I gotta paint my mules here, so this is a separate process. I'm gonna base coat them all in an off-white here, and then I'm just gonna cut in, Molly, the main mule, is more of an orange colored, and then the smaller ones are lime, so I'll just use orange and lime to cut in on those colors, and then I'll fill the rest in with lead belcher metallics to hit any metallic parts. Pretty simple on here, really just kind of looking at a picture online and just following along. Okay, on to the wash step. Basically, I'm using a pretty thinned down, just black oil, standard black oil, in all the recesses here. I'm also going to cover up, for all the colors we're doing besides the skin tone, it works out well. We don't have to really worry too much about it. Once I'm done with the black oil, I'm going to move on to this crimson oil. It's kind of a darker red. It's really nice. I found it at Marshall's actually, and it's the same Newton Windsor, same as everything else I use. But I'm going to just limit this to the skin and make sure that there's really no pooling here. I want this to be clean recess work for the steps coming forward. I'm going to use this small makeup brush to wick away any of the pooled or excess oil off the models. You can just put a little bit of white spirits or Gamsol on your dab on the end of your brush, and it'll help pull any stuff that's dried off. I don't normally clean a lot of models I do because I'm usually doing something different than this, but this is one of the major steps in oil washing that I usually just am lazy and I don't do. Alright, let's bang out this skin here. So I want to go back with my Brown Rose and Berserker skin, which was pretty much the color I shot through my airbrush, and I'm just gonna redefine all my cylinders and all my round points, anything that's facing towards my light source, which is for these models above my above the head. And I'm gonna be using not a glaze but a thinner version of this, just to kind of highlight those cylinders. As you're slowly working up these colors and you're adding more and more of the lighter colors, the Dorado skin, even in sometimes you add a little bit of white, you just are going smaller and smaller with your detail work, using the tip of your brush to kind of touch the model, poke at the model. These are all little steps because you're using thin down paint or glaze consistency at this point. You don't see the texture. It just, the way it dries smooth, and with such small detail it's going to blend really nicely with the rest of the highlights you're doing. Let's finish the leathers off here. So I'm going to come back with a leather brown mixed in with mahogany. Even though we used a red leather before, you could use the red leather instead of mahogany, but those two colors from Vallejo are really nice. They work well together and they sometimes highlight even better over each other. So a lot of dry brushing here. When I get to the brown sand though, that's when I'll pull out my detailing brush, something sharp with a sharp edge. That's when we're going to hit the highlights, but also start to scratch, use the tip of the brush to kind of scratch at the leather. I want a little bit of a worn leather, nothing crazy, not like a cracked leather that's due to heat, but something worn though is what I'm looking for. Alright, those models are looking pretty good, so let's do some bases. Bases I want to keep dark. We want to do contrast from the base to the models. I want the models to really pop, and I'm also going to be doing some cool crystal features. So simple, super simple here, black based, they're pretty much going to be covered in black, and then I'm going to go in a dark gray to a deep gray. Very simple, just using a dry brush here, picking up some of the ground, but this is not, this is not where I want people looking, so I'm going to keep it pretty basic here just to move along. So for some of these models, I want to do this cool luminescent crystal effect, and pretty much the other half of the bases, I want to do Deep Rock Galactic minerals. So for the luminescent stuff, I'm going to do this technique. So basically, the first thing I'm doing, I'm going to do this technique that I learned from a way better painter than me, El Mishriska, the legend. I mean, I'm a Patreon member of him. I love him. He's amazing. So I saw this in one of his Votann models. I thought it was a really cool effect, and I wanted to try it myself. So the way we do it is, I changed it a little bit, but to be honest, he's probably got the better way anyway. But the way you start it is you do a little bit of a halo. So you use white ink through the airbrush, and you shoot around the base of the crystals, because these crystals are going to glow a little bit by the time we're done with them. After we have our halo set, after our halo is set, we're going to cover any of those halos with a fluorescent green ink through the airbrush. Just get a nice base coat on everything. You could do 2 passes. I ended up just doing 1. It worked out fine. And then after that, we're going to use Frostheart Blue, which is a contrast paint from Citadel, and we're going to shoot this towards like the center of the center of the crystal. We don't want to completely cover the green, but this is going to give it kind of a turquoise effect. It's really nice. Next, we're going to base coat all of these crystals in you can use a dark blue. This is more of a mid-tone, like almost an Imperial Navy blue from Army Painter. Anything that's darker, we're going into a turquoise spectrum, so anything that's a dark teal would most likely work for this. I believe this is Abyssal Blue is the name of this paint. Finishing off these cool fluorescent crystals here, what I'm going to do is I have some pretty, thinned white paint, and I'm using the side of my brush to etch out every single edge of these crystals. Now, if you look at El Matrusta's post, he's using them on cubes, so these are a little more intricate, and I had to be a little more freehand with some of this, and you can follow along anyway. But anyway, the top of the crystal, you want it to have a full white reflection, because everything's going to get covered in a color after this. So you want the bottom, you want to tap, and you want to sketch in some reflection on the bottom, a nice straight edge along the side, and then a reflection on the top of the crystal, because we're doing some of these crystals have a lot of sides to them. So I can't give you an exact how my theory was, but basically I wanted a reflection at the bottom of the crystal and at the top of the crystal, and I wanted to keep the middle the same. Now, in the master's guide, he actually starts with a sky blue and goes to white. I wasn't following directions very well, so I went from white to sky blue. He had to blend it a little more work. Definitely the other way better. So if you're doing this, basically what we're doing is we want a sky blue to be in the middle of the crystal going to the white, and what you do is you gradient it in, and if you can wet blend it, it's even better. At this point I was shot, so I'm just kind of getting through these models the best I can. And then at the end, we're just going to finish it off with a mix of that frost heart and fluorescent green ink. I'm going to shoot the white paint I painted at the bottom of the crystals to give that full glow effect. Moving on to our Deep Rock Galactic minerals, we're going to be doing nitra, we're going to be doing red sugar, and we're going to be doing gold, and we're going to do some morkite too. So pretty much for the red sugar and the nitra, I just wanted to base it in a nice neutral flat red. For the gold, it's going to be a gold. For the morkite, it's actually the abyssal blue again, but we're just going to do a different tactic with it. I'm going to try to shoot this halo in the middle of the crystal the best I can, and it's going to give a slight glow to the crystal, which will be different than the nitra, because the nitra is just a straight kind of metallic ruby color. I'm a little all over the place with my efficiency of the airbrush here, but while I have the white in my airbrush, I'm just going to start setting some of the OSL effects up. So I really liked the middle of the coils of some of these guns. I wanted to do a slight glow from them, and all the blades as well are going to be an OSL effect. For my weapons, I'm just going to coat everything in the frost hard blue. We have it on the table already for the bases, so pretty simple here. We're just going to do frost hard blue to sky blue to a white gradient going out, and anything that's a plasma is going to get a white oil thinned wash in the recesses. Pretty standard for what I do for OSL. Nothing crazy here. There's a lot going on these models. We don't need OSL to be like the main thing. To finish off the red sugar, I'm just going to use a little bit of fluorescent red through the airbrush to shoot at where those halos were, and that's going to give me that glow effect that I'm looking for. In the game, it's a little orange. They have a whole orange hue against the whole game, but I didn't want to take it away from what I was doing, so the fluorescent red should work fine. And there we have it. Really striking miniatures. They came out really well. The face work is fantastic. The armor, that blue, is very distinct. I like it a lot. The bases are very cool. And yeah, everything came out really well with these. Something different. I painted so many Votann in like the normal colors, I couldn't do it again. So I really wanted to change it up. And these bases are sick. Like the luminescent ones, especially on the Pioneers and the bikes, they look great. Like, those models look really good. So very happy how they came out. Very happy with all these models. I think they're really cool. I didn't film the bus because I did the bus at a later date, but the bus is the same thing. Just, that's even easier. You just cover it in the same paint we used for the armor, cut in some details, and you're done. But if you liked the video, please leave me a like, subscribe, share it around, send someone. I got way more content coming. I gotta paint like 4 Armageddon boxes like this week, so I am about to tear into some orcs right now, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thanks.